Welcome to Kevin's European Garage, and today I'm going to be changing the front brakes on this Mini Countryman S. So today I'm going to be changing the front brakes. I also have the rear brakes for this car too, and that will be another video. And we're also going to be bleeding the brakes too, and that will be an additional video on top of that. But I also want to say thanks to FCP Euro over here for helping out with today's project. They helped out with getting some brake rotors, and we're going to be using Zimmerman rotors. And I decided to use the Textar brake pads. It's cool, this thing comes as a kit, so it comes with everything that you need to do the whole job. It comes with the front and rear pads, the brake wear sensors, the front rear rotors, comes with anti-squeal compound. It comes with the whole thing that you can get from FCP Euro. Like I said, also for this job, I'm going to be doing a brake flush, and we're going to be using liquid moly for the fluid. So alright, so that's it. This is the whole deal over here. This is going to be a 3-part video, because if you are doing the rear brakes and you don't have to worry about the front brakes, you don't have to go through the whole thing. So we're going to split it apart into 3 videos. And first we're going to be starting off with the front brakes. There's no brake wear sensor on the passenger side, so that's why I moved over to the driver's side. So the first thing that we're going to do is get rid of the brake wear sensor. And the connector is actually up behind over here, so we just have to pull this back. So we're going to try to see if I can get out with just this one screw and take this one up and look up underneath and see if there's enough room. If not, we might have to pull back a little bit more of this of the liner, but we'll try to only move back what's necessary. All right, so now there's enough, just enough where we can get behind and pull out the connector. All right, so now we just gotta follow the lines over here. One is for the ABS sensor, and the other one is for the brake sensor. So this is the brake wear sensor. That's what I'm doing. So first we pull it out from the harness over here. Now we'll pull out the connector over here. Figure out what side the tab is on to pull on that. Hold on. It's a little dirty, hard to see. So it's right there. Split that tab. Now we have these out of the way. You can see down over here, here's the connector. Just pull that out. It comes out like such. It'd be a lot easier if I wasn't having to hold this panel back at the same time. Let's see if we can just use one hand. Yep. Just push on that tab and slide this up and out. So it goes around the bleeder valve over here. Pull it out of the way. Okay, so now I got the wheel turned to give me a little bit better access. So this is a 13mm bolt that's over here. Normally what you would do if you're using hand tools is you put a wrench in between this and the caliper, but to get this lip over here, and you need a thin wrench to get in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a 13 on my impact gun, and just with the shot I should be able to break it free from here, no problem. Maybe not. On the bottom wouldn't worked. So let me try again with this, but this time I'm going to try to put on a set of vice grips, like a thin needle nose vice grip to kind of get in there to hold it in place. All right, see, it's kind of loose already. We're just going to need to hold it in place. just so it doesn't spin on us. And there we go. So that's it. 2 13mm bolts. You see they got a little Loctite on it. So now we're going to pull the caliper off. Pulling this thing through the caliper. And what I do have is a bungee cord to hold the caliper in place. You don't want to rest the caliper just on the brake line. That's too much force on the connector, and you might damage it. So let's rock this back and forth so we get it off. Push the wear sensor through. Put the caliper up here for right now. Take your bungee cord, run it through here. Grab both of these, and just leave it off to the side. And let's start pulling apart the hanger. See, the pads are good on this thing. These aren't the problem with the pads. What the problem is with these brakes is the rotors. And we'll get to that a little bit later. Okay, next, it's time to remove the hanger. These are two 16mm bolts that hold it to the knuckle. And now we got the hanger off. And now let's go take the rotor off. And this is a 6mm hex. In the kit, you get new bolts. So let's take this off. Hopefully yours comes off the same way. And now to get the rotor off. All right, so I'm gonna tap on the rotor to get this off. I'm using a brass hammer. We're replacing the rotors, so we don't really care about if we damage them, dent them, or do anything. So you can use any kind of hammer that you want. Hopefully yours comes off relatively easily. We'll see about this one. And the rotor is off. And now you can see exactly why we're changing the rotors. The wear is really bad. On the inside, we're not making contact with 50% of the rotor. Before we put the new rotors on, we're going to clean off this hub. First, I'm just going to take a wire brush to it to kind of get off some of the larger particles. There's not much rust on this one, so I'm not really worried too much, but I still want to clean it off. So this can be done easily with a wire brush like this, or you can get a wire brush, attach it to a drill. You can use an air tool. So there's a couple different ways you can go about cleaning this. Now this hub is really clean, and now we're going to unbox the new rotor and put it on the hub. These things are pretty much the go-to for anyone in any BMW scene. I mean, they all like to use the Zimmerman rotors. A lot of times Akibono pads, but I went with the Techstar pads instead. And look at these rotors, very nice. All right, they don't look like they're covered with anything, so you don't look like you have to clean them. Sometimes you get rotors that have a thin layer of oil on them or something like that, so that they don't rust during shipping. But since these have a nice zinc plating on them, you don't have to worry about that. So we have a nice clean rotor ready to install. And we're also going to be using new bolts that comes with the kit from FCP Euro. Before I put the new rotors on, I like to put just a little bit of anti-seize on here, just so that they don't rust and stick to it, and it just makes it a little bit easier if you ever take them apart. Well, that should be enough. It's just a thin, very thin layer. Let's put the rotor on, let's line up the hole, take our new bolt. Next, to put the hanger back on, but before we put it back on, we need to clean this because this is quite dirty looking. So before now I got my calipers clean, I should actually open up the pads first because it comes with a nice little shim kit. So you don't actually have to spend time cleaning these. You can just replace them. Just like this. And there we go, nice new shims. The backing shims are already attached to the pads. Don't have to worry about that. And it also comes with new bolts to hold the caliper to the hanger, so that's pretty cool. Over here though, we will be putting on a little bit of lube to slide these things in and out. So let's get ready for that now. And this is the one the brake wear sensor slides into. And you can tell that this is the one it's got the extra shim portion over that hole. And this is the one that matches up perfectly for the front. All right, so let's install this into the pad now. So you can use this one, the old one, as a reference. It's got a little tab that sticks off of this thing. This one's got the same thing. So that installs towards the brake pad. And you just take these, just push it and slide it on in. Just put a lube on here. You can also use the same stuff too for the slides. You don't want to put too much. You don't have to worry about it touching the rotors or anything like that, or getting on the pad. Okay, also while I'm at it, I will put some lube inside the sliders. Even though these are by no means, you know, frozen or anything like that, they move quite freely. I'm just going to add just a little bit more lube in there anyways. And just some lithium grease should do the job. I'm just going to clean these off really quickly, get all the old stuff off, put some new stuff on. Nice and good. All right, and just double check your boots to make sure nothing is, you know, they don't have any cracks or anything like that. You don't want to let any water in there, and that's how these things end up freezing, is they got some cracks in here, or they don't sit right, and then they end up letting some water in, and before you know it, you've got a frozen slider. So now that we got the new shims on here, they're lubed up, slides are lubed up, they're ready to go, and then now we can put this thing on, the hanger, and then next we can put the pads on after that. Okay, so now it's time to put on the hangers. Those are the 16mm bolts. Normally I torque everything, but these I'm not too worried about the torque, so I'm just going to hit my impact gun. So here's the pads. The one that's got the brake wear sensor goes on the inside. Let's put the bottom in first. There we go. All right, so here's the caliper, and this is the piston. We got to compress this piston. Some people get those tools where you have the screw, and it's got the plate that goes in here, and it pushes in the center, or pushes on this again in there. I just use a really big set of channel locks. Gets the job done, and it's slightly easier. I always compress them slowly, though. Sometimes you do it too fast, then this thing will get a little bubble inside here, and then you'll have to pick at this thing to get the dust cover back in properly. But if you do it slowly, it usually never happens. All right, that's it. And don't forget to use your new bolts that come with the kit. And we also have to slide up the brake wear sensor through here. The bolts. I don't have a wrench that goes in here. Should buy something that's thin like that to hold it in place, but this should do. You only need to hold it down until this thing is pretty tight, and then you can tighten up the rest from there without worrying about it spinning. Let's go do the bottom one. Now I'm just gonna make these tight. I do not know what the torque is, but I will find out and I will list it below. But as long as these are just nice and tight, you should be okay. Just don't crank down on them too hard. I mean, it is possible to snap the bolt, I guess, especially if you're using an impact. But I will list the torque values when I know them. So now the last thing we got to do on this is put back the cable for the brake wear sensor. Lastly, behind here. All right, here's the connector. Here is the end of the brake or sensor. Let's line it up. It goes on one way and squeeze it tight until you hear a little click. Let's pull this back. It's got a little bracket, front half and the back half this thing slides in. This holds it right back in place. And don't forget to put it back in here. With this one going in first and this one going in after. All right, so that's that. Okay, so all the clips are back up. Don't forget to remove your bungee cord. So that is how you put front brake pads and rotors on this 2014 Mini Cooper Countryman S. But before I go, there's one thing I want to talk about. So after you're done, compressing those pistons inside the calipers, you have to get those things back out. So the only way to get them back out again is you got to start pressing on the brake pedal. What I suggest is that you do not press the brake pedal all the way to the floor. When you're doing this, give small little pushes on the brake pedal. So the reason being is a lot of times, especially when you get cars with higher mileage on it, that piston, when it's going inside and out of the master cylinder, sometimes wears some marks into the walls. So what will happen is that you'll end up pushing those seals past where the grooves are that you made from inside the piston sliding back and forth, and sometimes you can have sharp edges on there, and they'll actually blow that seal. So then all of a sudden now you have absolutely no brake pedal. The thing will just go right to the floor. You just blown your master cylinder, so you're not going to replace the master cylinder. So that usually only happens in cars with high mileage. This one over here has not even 60,000 miles on it, so it's actually not that bad. So thanks for watching Kevin's European Garage. Please subscribe. Don't forget to like this video. And also check out my Instagram page at Kevin's European Garage so you can see what I'm doing in between videos. Alright, thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon.